Good afternoon, everyone. It's absolutely brilliant to be with you again. If you haven't yet, then make sure you hit that like button. If you are watching live, then comment as we go. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, then make sure you subscribe to the DBC channel and hit that little notification bell too, so you don't miss any great content that the Central Telford churches are putting out there. It's absolutely pouring it out downside. So what else would you want to do with your Tuesday afternoon than sit and enjoy Fools for Christ? It's Tuesday, it's 2 o'clock, it's Fools for Christ. This week, I've been bringing Jodie up to speed on all of the trending internet videos that she's missed being not socially engaged over the last 10 years. She's not one for watching like viral videos and things like that. So I've been bringing it up to speed this morning on all the wonderful things that she's missed, including Leroy Jenkins and Fenton, the dog. Now, if you don't know about Leroy Jenkins and Fenton, then you need to go to YouTube and watch it, particularly Fenton, which is brilliant. And I'd show it to you here, but the language isn't great for a churcher because there's a big JC shout that you might not like. But what I can show you is this one, which has had me in absolute stitches this morning. And when I laugh at videos like this is Jodie's face. So she doesn't find this funny at all. So I find this hilariously funny. So this is the calm owl.
Millie's my favourite. Look how calm she is as well.
I don't know, maybe it's just me. I find that owl absolutely hilarious every time I've seen that video. Wow, I think that must be about 8-9 years old, and every time I watch that video, it's just the owl. I just love his eyes. It's great. He gets me every time. It's one of those weeks. Jodie was here, but she's been dragged off by the kids. I shared earlier on Facebook, I actually sat down to do some studying this morning, and I shared that it's one of those physical laws which is always constant and will never be changed, that as soon as there's a quiet moment and you sit down thinking, brilliant, the house is quiet, I'm going to do some studying. You sit down and then everybody needs you all of a sudden. The phone's going off, the kids are in and out. And another one of those laws which is always constant is when you've got a quiet house and you decide it's time you're going to sit and do a live stream, there'll be chaos ensuing upstairs and the kids will be wrestling and fighting with each other. And one of you has to run upstairs and go and tell them off. So we don't have Jodie. She's nipped off. But we do have an amazing guest today. And she is such a deep thinker on spiritual matters and an absolutely fabulous author. You may have come across either A Tale of Beauty from Ashes or the very popular Catching Contentment, How to Be Wholly Satisfied, which I will hold up for you here. It's an absolutely fabulous book, and we're going to speak about this a little bit later on. She may be well known to you if you're watching and you are a Telfordonian, Telfordite, someone who lives in Telford, because she lives in Telford as well. Please welcome the absolutely wonderful Liz Carter. Liz, it's absolutely great to see you today.
Hi, Tom. It's great to see you too. I don't know what to say to that. It's lovely to be with you. Thank you.
I mentioned a little bit then about your book, Catching Contentment, and I wondered if you would be able to share with us a bit of a background to the context that led you to writing this book.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, the concept of contentment often seemed like something really alien to me in my life because I grew up with chronic illness. And from an early age, really, I was aware that I was a little bit different to the others. Like I couldn't get around the track in PE. And I just felt like I didn't quite fit in this world because I was so often off school and they couldn't really find out what was wrong with me, only that it was something to do with my lungs. But I got a lot of different diagnoses, poorly controlled asthma, those kind of things. So over the years, it got worse. And I eventually got diagnosed with quite a rare lung disease. It basically means that I get lots of chest infections, lots of pneumonia, in hospital quite a lot, having to have IV treatment just in order to carry on, really. So because of that, I found it quite difficult to understand where God was in it and what on earth the Bible could mean when it talked about contentment, because I thought that contentment could only be found when, life was fine or life was perfect and I get healed and all of that. Maybe I'd be content. So I felt like I spent a long time waiting to be healed, and a lot of people told me that I would be healed. I had a lot of prayer for healing, but always it was the same thing. It didn't happen, and I ended up feeling disappointed in a way, disappointed with myself, disappointed with God. And I felt like I was disappointing others as well, actually, when they were praying for me because I wasn't getting better. And so, it was a bit of a spiral, really, of not feeling like I was good enough in a way for God. Like I wasn't this kind of shiny Christian who was all fixed and healed. Um, so yeah, I grew up with that, and just over the years, I started to reflect on what contentment could mean. And as I got to know God better, really, I just reflected that it was something probably a lot deeper than I thought it was before. And so I went on this journey, and I wrote this book about Paul's statement in Philippians, where he says, I've learned the secret to being content in every circumstance. And it's built around that. It's built around that verse in Philippians, and just an exploration of that. So, yeah.
So the idea of contentment for me is an absolutely fascinating one, because often I find words like, I mean, you hinted to it a little bit then, Liz, words like contentment have almost this bland interpretation attached to them. But contentment is much more than bland boredom. So Liz, I wonder if you could just explore a little bit and just share with us a little bit what contentment is and what you have discovered about it.
Yeah. Well, I think that often we've almost sold a story about it in society, that contentment, we see it on that adverts and on social media especially, that contentment is something that happens when all is well with our world, but especially that it's something that happens when we have what we want, and when we have better things. And we're always being told that if we get an even better thing or even better relationship, or a fixed body or fixed mind or any of those things, that is when we're going to achieve contentment. And I think that we've actually seen almost echoes of that in Christian teaching over the years, sadly. I mean, I've certainly come across that, that it's almost like when we allow Jesus to fix us, then we're going to be content. It's that echo of what the world is telling us, but that doesn't go deep enough. That sort of fails at the first step, really. It just falls down when anything like crisis hits, like now in this time of COVID-19. That story doesn't stack up. When you're going through any kind of issue at all, mental health, physical health, mourning, anything at all, there has to be something more. And I think that's where Paul's teaching about contentment really comes in, because actually what we see is when he was writing about contentment in Philippians, he was actually writing from a prison cell. He wasn't in this amazing circumstance. His life wasn't all fixed and amazing and sort of social media worthy. He was experiencing hardship. He was experiencing persecution. He was under threat of execution. All of these things were forming his life, and yet he was there saying, I've learned this secret to contentment. And I think that digging into what he was really meaning by that really excited me, because I saw that what he was talking about in terms of contentment was not that story that the world was telling us, but was something to do with fixing our minds on Jesus within our situation and despite our situation. And it wasn't about waiting to come out of it, but it was about not so much an acceptance of the situation, but a surrender to God within the situation. And then it was about finding God with us in that situation. And also remembering that Jesus went through the worst of pain, and so understands, gives us a real sense of peace. And I think Paul unlocked it earlier in that chapter in Philippians, actually, when he talked about how we need to rejoice in all circumstances, pray with thanksgiving. And then he talks about this peace, this supernatural peace beyond understanding. And it's like nothing we can imagine, that peace. And it's about learning to access that. and the way he used that language of learning contentment, it sort of teaches us that it's a choice and it's something that we have to be active in, and a decision. So that's kind of like the framework, I think, of where I started to explore contentment from and what contentment means. Yeah.
That part that you said then, Liz, about that almost the story that you're told by society, that you think you're going to progress in that way and everything's going to look that certain way as being that part of contentment. And I think at the moment circumstances are such that that's definitely not been the case for a lot of us. And you shared a little while ago about the circumstance and background that led to you exploring and then writing this book. And for you and your family, particularly at the moment, those health issues must mean that life is so different and so difficult for you and the wider family, of course, at the moment. Could you share, do you mind sharing what life's been like throughout the current pandemic for you and the family?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm married and I have 2 kids. And it's about 15 weeks ago now, I got the letter from the government saying that I needed to shield. And it was a shock at the time because the language in it was sort of, we have identified that you would be at risk of severe illness if you get COVID-19. And so at the time, that was a bit of a shock. And it made me quite fearful because it was obviously very prevalent at the time. And then the conditions of shielding as well were quite extreme. I was asked to stay 2 meters away from my family at all times. I was asked to stay out of the same rooms as them. My husband to move out of my room at night, use a different bathroom if I could. All of those different things I was asked to do. And at first for 12 weeks. And I thought, oh, it'll be okay because I'm kind of used to it. I'm used to being housebound when I'm ill, which is quite often. And it'll just be like that. But actually, I don't think I realised then how much of a toll it would take, the lack of physical contact and just being apart from them so much. And it really did take a toll on me mentally. And I'm still coming to terms with that, really. I'm still struggling with that quite a lot. So in this last weekend, I've been able to come out of that extreme shielding. So I'm at home. I'm within the home now. I'm able to be in the same spaces as my family, and that's amazing. It's so lovely, but it just feels really surreal as well that sort of happened. So yeah, it's actually been really, really tough, and I've had to learn a kind of dig deep for a resilience within that. And I think that this book that I wrote about contentment, everything that I learned from that has been sort of never more stark than now in a way, and never more important to remember to dig down into Jesus that he has for me within that time. And that's been, I don't know how I'd have kept going really without being able to do that and to spend time with God and to just lay that out before him. Yeah, it's not always easy. And I wouldn't say I always did it with great joy and delight. Sometimes a bit grumpy at God, but I think that's fine. I think God understands that. So yeah, it's been hard. Yeah.
It is really difficult, isn't it, in those increasingly difficult times to see that contentment throughout life. Liz, you talked then about really digging down into that contentment that God's shown you in this exploration that you've been doing over these years of contentment. Can you share with us some wisdom that God's been placing on your heart about finding that contentment in these tough times that we're in at the moment?
Yeah. I've been thinking a little bit about how sometimes when we are in the middle of crisis, or just in the middle of just difficult times in general, that it almost feels like, where is God? And we're asking where God is. And it's not helped in times like this when all we hear are the stories of triumph and the songs of victory. And when we sometimes think then that we can't be honest about our own pain, our own difficult circumstances, it's almost like we've got to put a mask on and say, I'm fine, when people ask, how are you? Yet what I found is that the Bible over and over again, it gives us this permission to lay out our pain and to really share our agony with God, and with others as well. We don't have to keep it in. We don't have to wear that mask. And I found that this sense of honesty before God has led to a real sense of relief, and towards contentment, from the peace really being able to share with God. And I just want to share one of my favourite passages from Scripture with you today, that really digs into this, and I think it's really relevant to this situation. Psalm 42, and I think it actually provides a real key to unlock the true meaning of what it is to find contentment in God. Because, I don't know about you, but there are days where I feel like the light's been turned off when I come before God. There are days where I feel like there's nothing there, and it's like we can't access God's presence. We can only look back and mourn about what it used to be like. And just everything around can feel like darkness. Psalm 42 really sums up this experience, because he starts with the words, "As the deer pants for the water, so my soul pants for you, my God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When can I go and meet with God? My tears have been my food day and night." And I think this resonates so much, because the psalmist is laying out his pain immediately, really starkly, and his longing. And he's saying, where are you, God? Where is your presence? When can I go and be with you again? And he recalls how things used to be. He says, he recalls for how he used to lead the procession into the place of God. And he just misses that temple, that place that he loves, because he's exiled in the desert. And that just makes me think of the exile that we've been in through lockdown, and that we often feel like that we're missing worship together in church. And I think that's just so relevant for how we're feeling now. And he goes on to say, "These things I remember as I pour out my soul. Why are you downcast, O my soul?" And I think we can so relate to that, like I was saying, in how we miss the way things used to be. And we look back to this time of joy and fellowship, and we just want that again. And that's what this psalmist is saying. And I think in times like this, contentment can seem far away. But I love that the psalmist is being so honest about that. And he's pining for these things. He's pining for the presence of God, but he's also pining for the way things used to be. So when he asked himself why his soul is so disturbed within him, he makes a decision. He kind of turns it around in laying out his hurting. He decides to push through, to look to God, because he says, "Put your hope in God, but I will yet praise him, my Saviour and my God. My soul is downcast within me, but I will remember you." And I think that's unlocking that secret to contentment right there. So it's not saying he's going to wait until everything is good again. It's not saying he's going to wait until he's back at the temple and he's leading the procession again. But he's saying, "I'm going to yet praise you within this situation." Making that active choice we were talking about, an act of surrender to God. And I love the beautiful words he then uses about the depths of God. He says, "Deep calls to deep in your waterfalls." And I think that's just such a good picture of how our spirit calls out to the depths of God's spirit, saying, "I can't do this on my own. I need you. I need your depths. I need your peace." And that's what he's doing there. And that's why he's able to turn around and say, "Yet I will praise." And that's just like Paul did, was talking about when he said, "Rejoice in all circumstances." So yeah, I guess what today I'd like to say to you is that, if you're feeling locked down in any way, not just through lockdown, but in your life in any way, that just be encouraged that we have a God who holds us in that darkness and sees us in it, and whose love goes deeper than our pain. And I just want you to be lifted up by the truth that the everlasting arms go wider than anything that we can experience, and that Jesus understands the worst of pain. And these words of this broken psalmist can help us in our brokenness, because they give us permission to shout out our pain And then they also give us that model of turning around and saying, "Yet I will praise." And it's learning to do that, where we access that deep contentment, that I call it holy contentment, which is a satisfaction in God and not found in the things around us. So yeah, that's what I'd like to share today, really.
Liz, that's amazingly insightful, and I think that whole idea of that ascension moment.
Can't hear you.
Oh, am I? No, I don't think I'm on mute. Can you hear me?
No.
I'm definitely not on mute, so everyone should hear me. Comment on, let me know if you can hear
No.
me. I think Liz can't hear me, but everyone else can. Let's have a little look. Right, I'm on. Liz is on, I'm on. Can you hear me now?
No, I've lost
Still
it.
no. Still no. So if you can hear me, just comment to let me know that you can hear me. I'll just wave when I when I need to talk. So that is amazingly insightful, and it's so useful for each and everyone. That idea of in this. Oh, thank you, Nikki. I can be heard. So I'll just put that up. So there we go. So at least Liz knows that I can be heard by everybody else. That amazing idea of that ascension moment where Jesus is taken up in that broken body, and this idea of God understanding that pain that we feel, because this whole pain of suffering, and Liz shared then about that deep calling of the Spirit within us calling out to God. And at the moment, this deep call isn't just us in church. It's not just us as a nation. I mean, Rahul at the moment watching from India, and it's the whole world at the moment calling out to God. I think that's so insightful, Liz, and not just at the moment, but in general and for always. But of course, at the moment, that point is definitely highlighted. I want to bring up this fantastic book for you all. So this is Catching Contentment, How to Be Wholly Satisfied, and it's available as both. My camera's not doing a great job with that, so I'll tell you, I'll bring it up like that. There we go. It's available as both a paperback and on ebook as well. I'm going to add the link to the Amazon page where you can buy it from in the description, and other booksellers as well. If you're watching on YouTube, I will add this to the description in YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, I will stick it in the comments right now, so you can go straight to it if you want. And I really encourage you to grab this book. I know a couple of people watching do have this book, and it's an absolutely fantastic book, and you will feel God speaking to you through this. So do go and please check that out. Liz, can you hear me yet? I'd love to be able to ask Liz what, for all of us watching now and perhaps later catching up on this, what we can hold in our prayers for her and the Carter clan. So when this is done, I'm going to send Liz an email, and hopefully she can tell us what we can pray for her and the family. I mean, we've heard some things already about the difficult situations that they have there at the moment. So please do hold the Carters in your prayers at the moment. And if there's anything else that Liz can share with us, then I'll add that into the comments as well. So please do hold them in your prayers. At the end of each chapter of this book, Liz has some absolutely beautiful prayers that she's written down, and I wanted to ask her to share one, but obviously she can't because she can't hear us. So I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm going to try and do this by sign language. See if Liz can hear us. Perhaps probably not going to be the best way because I don't think she can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share one of the prayers from this book. Do you have this, Liz? Can you see this page? I don't think she can. Let me see. Can I show this page on the camera? This page? No, it's not very focused. Right. I'm going to read this prayer. Who would think that we rely on audio in text so much? So this is a fantastic prayer that Liz has written towards one of the end chapters of this book, and this is wonderful. Lord Jesus, Lord of life, when my heart turns to those things that leave me, seething with unrest, turn my face back to you. May I chase the good, the perfect, the excellent, the praiseworthy, the beautiful, you. Transform my heart. May it beat for you, the one who gave everything. Comfort me by the power of your Spirit. So I may walk in the light of your presence, contagious for your glory, satisfied in your holiness. Amen. And isn't that an absolutely fantastic prayer? I want to thank Liz from the bottom of my heart for joining us, and I know she can't hear us, so I'm going to say thank you, Liz. Thank you. So next week we are going to be joined by Jamie Reeves, who is minister of Rodbourne Baptist Church in Swindon, and we're going to be discussing mental health, but particularly we're going to be talking about mental health with a Christian outlook. It's something that as Christians can often be a real sticking point for us in engaging with our own mental health. So Jamie's got some fabulous insights into that, so we're going to be joined by Jamie, so please do join us next week. Until then, please do join us on Sunday, 10:30 live on Facebook or catch up on YouTube. And next week, we will be live Tuesday at 2 p.m. A final huge, massive thank you to Liz for being with us today, who hopefully will hear all this when she watches it back on YouTube later. So Liz, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks. I don't know if anyone can hear me, but I'm glad you can hear me. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at lip reading, but it's been lovely to be with you guys. So thank you.
Until next time, may God bless you and all that you need, even if it is at a socially safe distance. So until next week, God bless you.